Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We're here with Dr. Kim Morrison, the Superintendent of Mount Airy City Schools. Kim, I've been enjoying a delicious cookies and cream frap from the Blueberry Cafe. What can you tell us about that today?
So the Blueberry Cafe is a student-run cafe. So I don't know if you had anything like that when you were in school, but I didn't.
No.
So it's a workforce development through our OCS program and our department that shows students like a bridge from high school to the workplace. So shows them how to take orders, deliver food, take the money, all the fun things from workforce development in a business.
Right, and I wanted to point that out because that happens to be our location for today's interview. Thank you for sharing that information, Dr. Morrison. More serious topic. Bullying is something that happens in some schools.
Sure.
In all schools. And I know that as a superintendent, that's very concerning to you. What would you like to say about that topic?
So this is one of the many topics because schools are pretty comprehensive. But we know as children come through adolescence that they have this tendency to compare each other to the other ones. And so there's this whole comparison going on. And social media is in the middle of that now. So my advice to you parents would be to really think about putting a lot of barriers in place. Like, look at how early you put them on social media. When do you give them a phone? When do you allow them to have the entire internet at their fingertips?
Right.
I would say schools can put those filters in place. We can look at what they're doing all day long online.
Right.
We can see what they're doing face to face. But parents may not have the same tools that schools do. So to prevent cyberbullying, which is our biggest form of bullying, I would say limit technology use, especially social media, with students. Really think about your own use of social media as parents, right? How often are you on there? What kind of example are you setting? What kind of filters do you really feel like your child need to be on? Some of the children are on social media at second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and they start doing these body comparisons, and then by the time they get to middle school, it just blows up on you.
Wow.
So schools can really help parents, inform them. We have a lot of really positive programs. Rules like we have at school are good to be enforced at home and in social settings. Replace the negative behavior with positive behavior.
Right.
So about 65% of our students are in extracurricular activities. They're in sports, they're in arts, they're in academic competitions. That is the number one thing to get students to replace bullying kind of activities with positive reinforcement about their body image, about who they are, about the gifts and the talents and abilities that students have to give so that their self-efficacy improves. So it's pretty complex, but rules, thinking about reporting to people that this is going on. 80% of bullying that occurs, whether at home or at school, is never reported.
Wow.
So it's really hard to do anything about it if it's not reported.
Right.
So talk to your students about rules, reporting, and replacing with positive behavior. That'd be my advice to help families.
Right. And how can children, parents, anyone who notice the bullying, how can they report that?
So what we try to do is we try to build a lot of small relationships, small group relationships, starting from kindergarten. We have small groups that meet every day. They talk about what they call their morning meeting, their check-in, how they're doing, anything going on that they need to talk about, all the way through middle school and high school. So one counselor for 600 kids at the high school is not going to help you build that relationship. It's got to be everybody, all teachers, all families, creating small group and relationships. You know, some of the best relationships are with coaches, band directors, choral directors, you know, the teachers. Anytime you can make sure that your child has a good mentor, that your child has a good youth group. You know, Young Life is really a big part of our organization. Mentoring programs, positive reinforcement will just really help with that. And they can tell those mentors. They feel more comfortable to tell their coach. They might tell a peer, and then the peer really needs to let people know. Right.
And do you guys have an anonymous tip line to report any of that?
We do. So we have an anonymous tip line, and like see something, if you see something or you hear something, you need to say something. And you can send it in through the anonymous tip line. You don't have to put your name on there. If you want follow-up, you do need to put your name on there so that we can call you or email you for more information. And that's through our website.
Right. And I know this is a serious topic, but if you could describe exactly what cyberbullying is, what types of examples you're seeing of that, and a little bit about the, maybe I heard body shaming there as a description.
Comparisons, yeah. So what we see primarily reported to us from our Bark Alert, which shows us that on the device that we had given them, they're at home at night and they're sending back and forth these emails that may be ugly to each other, we can immediately shut that down. That gives us a warning that there's a child doing something on our device that we feel like is an alert. So we'll call the parents, we'll fill them in. Again, this is usually outside of school, because in school you have the Wi-Fi filters, you have all the stuff where it's very difficult for them to do it. But if they're not on our device, that's where the families have to say, okay, this phone is pretty powerful.
Right.
And I can be body shaming somebody on there, and you know, the parents may not even know it.
Right.
And unless somebody lets you know, unless you're on their social media, you know, if you're not on the same social media platform they are, you may never see it. Right. So I would just say, you know, try to come in, let us help you with that, and let us give you some tools to try to curb this.
And of course, you and your staff stay in touch with the parents and advise them about these issues.
Sure. You know, schools can't own everything, right? They can't own all the phones that are given to
Exactly
third and fourth and fifth graders, and they can't own the Wi-Fi that you have at your house. And if your rules are to let children on social media earlier, we're not going to judge, but we would say there's a certain age in which their brains are able to handle these things on social media a lot better. And we would encourage you to wait as long as you can to get them on there. And then you have some students who are just attracted to social media. Like my boys are in college, you know, and that's not their favorite thing to be on, social media, because they were also doing sports and working and internships. But I think I replaced those activities that they may have done earlier, like online gaming, with things they love to do, which were physical. But that takes intentional, you have to do it. We create the opportunity at schools, and we can partner with families to get them in those opportunities. Yeah.
What I'm hearing is a very caring school system with caring staff who are concerned about the kids.
That's right, that's right. All the school systems in Surry County are excellent. We have 3 really good school systems. Every teacher in those classrooms went to school to be a teacher, to actually work with children. You know, they build relationships every day, and we can help with that. You know, we can help if you have difficulty with that, with your family, to say, how can I replace them sitting in the basement playing a game with getting out and doing an activity? We can help with that, but we can't own it. You know, it really has to be a good partnership between the families and the schools. Right.
As the superintendent, what would you like parents to know about their children?
Well, for me, it's just how amazing those children are. I mean, you can look around us right now, right?
Right.
These children are in the cafe, not really supervised by adults. Adults are around. They're taking classes. They're getting credits. They're running a cafe. They're making cookies, making drinks. They are amazing and motivated to be the best they can be. And so if parents will sit and really listen to their children, right, and say, okay, tell me how your day went. Specifically, how were each of your classes? Anything you're struggling with. Having good conversations with students will show you that they're very complex. Now, when they get to middle school, they don't want to talk to you as parents. So sometimes you have to say, all right, let's get you in this youth group. And, you know, like at Calvary Church, for instance, you know, we have Alex Bracey, or we have Young Life and Eric Leathers. My boys will talk to them in a heartbeat, and they're in college, and they're still mentoring them. They go visit them. That came from starting in about 4th or 5th grade, where I knew they weren't going to talk to mom, especially not the superintendent of their school, but they would talk to these other people. So I think bringing in really good adults that help help them work through that allows you to uncover how great they are.
Right.
Finding out what their gifts and talents and abilities are. There are lots of screeners. We have Zello starting in middle school. Students take this kind of online survey and they can already tell they may be really interested in the arts. They may really be interested in math and science. When you see that survey, they take it every year. By the time they get to 9th grade, they kind of know the field they want to explore. So how amazing is that if you can actually go ahead and get Surrey Community College courses taken care of in high school in the field in which you're going to major.
Right.
I mean, that is pretty amazing. So,
That's a really cool
you know,
thing.
a lot of our parents just don't take the time to really listen or let some of the mentors, you know, fill them in on how great their kids are.
And sometimes kids, and even us as adults, we don't really realize our talents, right? So that's a very unique tool. That's a very cool thing.
Absolutely. And it's really cool, as mine just graduated recently, to see that they grew up into such really good, strong young men and women.
Right.
Because you let them kind of make some choices along the way.
Right.
You know, I tried not to micromanage them. And not hover. It used to be called helicopter parents, you know. The child sometimes needs to fail in a safe environment like high school.
Right.
So when they get to college and they really struggle, they remember those resilience training tools that you as a parent and the child learned through going through some of those failures that were safe failures. Fail forward is what we say.
Right. That's a good way to look at it for sure. Also, as a superintendent, what would you like the children to know about their parents?
So even when parents come across overbearing, they are well-meaning. I have found that every single parent wants to do what's right for their child. Sometimes they're not exactly sure what that is. And they may just have like a knee-jerk reaction, or they may, you know, overreact or underreact. But parents really care about their kids. And so Mount Airy City Schools tries to contact parents, talk to parents, bring them in, and have lots of positive conversations. Because when you need to have a negative one, that shouldn't be your first conversation, right?
Right.
You want children to understand this too, that even though mom and dad may be showing up a lot at school or showing up at my games all the time, it's because they care. They really care about you getting a good education and you having a good experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a fairly broad question, but we've asked another superintendent this question, so I'll ask you the same. What grade would you give Mount Airy City Schools?
Well, of course, an A+. So
Yes, ma'am.
I would actually give all public schools an A+. We just went through COVID.
Right.
Think
Well,
about
that's a
what
good
we
point.
just went through. When everybody else went home, school showed up.
Right.
They came to school, everybody else was at home. The healthcare field, school showed up. So they should get an A+, and as I've said to the General Assembly, they should get more pay than anything else you're paying for because we're there every single day. So I am pretty excited that like the niche survey, which is a national survey, a lot of our statewide surveys also give us an A. So
Right.
it's not just me.
Right.
If you go online and you see the survey from parents that are in the niche survey, for instance, it'll say that the largest majority, 95% of our parents are giving us an A. And
Right.
many right behind that are giving us like a B, you know, like a
Right.
B+. So
Right.
to me, that's a pretty good indicator that it's not just me saying that.
Right.
I think the biggest draw for us to kind of look at our overall how we're doing is how many families are choosing to stay and come to Mount Airy City Schools. We are one of very few school districts in the state that have gained students over the last 10 years. We gain 5% students every year.
That's great.
Which means you have to be doing something right because you have kids who move in and out. You know, there's mobility issues, and we still gain 5%.
That's really impressive.
So we think like our lead, innovate, and serve is a
Right.
draw. I mean,
Right.
we have dual language at elementary. It's so popular, there's a wait list for that. We have academic competitions at the middle school, 17 of those. We win the state cup in that every year. We won 3 state athletic championships last year, this year, 4 last year, 3 this year. So those kinds of things show that there's excellence at every level, the arts, the academics, and the athletics. And we really believe Our litmus test is, do students and families continue to pick you when they could pick homeschool or charter?
Right.
And do they come to you even though families are really not moving into the county? You still have a higher population every year? That's amazing.
Right.
Our teachers just knock it out of the park every day, and our families know it.
Right. And I will say about teachers, sometimes they help a parent realize things about their child that, you might notice, but you're kind of like, well, is it just me? But they'll point that out and they'll confirm, a concern, or they'll point out something you're not realizing. So that's one of the great things about teachers, right?
Absolutely.
What does the future look like for Mount Airy City Schools?
Gosh, well, our lead, innovate, and serve really has driven us with this motto. How do we lead? How do we lead the state? How do we innovate? We're known across the state for our innovation, which is solving problems in a new and different way that's better for students. We do it every year. And then how do we serve? How do we teach empathy? I mean, that's something that's just, I don't know, right? Is our service projects that we're putting in place? How about Leader in Me at K-5, which when you survey the community is one of the main reasons they pick us at K-5, because students set their own goals, they run school-wide events, they take ownership of their own learning, and they use Covey's win-win strategies and sharpening the saw. These things that I took in college, they're taking in kindergarten.
They used Covey that early. That's impressive.
It is impressive. And they've been using it for 20 years. This is not new for us.
Right.
Leadership has been part of the mantra here 20 years or more.
That's great.
K-5. And so for the future, I think workforce development is always a driver.
Right.
So we have students in just a few years who will be graduating knowing 2 languages fluently. The dual language Spanish, English, and they can take our Chinese program from 8th to 12th.
Oh,
they
that's
could
cool.
be fluent in Mandarin, Spanish, English.
That's cool.
Think about putting that on your resume right out of high school,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's big. Just in this room here at the Blue Bear Cafe, we will have a hub for high-tech learning. Students, we're going to be putting that in here in the next month. You'll have PCs, MacBooks, you'll have AirPlay, you'll have Apple TVs. Students will come in, and we have 100 slots for next year. They can come in and take units of learning on cybersecurity. You can take all kinds of coding and programming and web design. Then those units stack and become credentials. So you don't have to take a class to take computer science. You're just going to be able to come into this hub fully staffed by a person who's going to be this high-tech learning accelerator.
Cool.
And you can live and work right here and get your stuff published by Apple without ever having to go to Raleigh or Cary.
That's
You can
awesome.
live in Surrey County. So the high-tech hub is really big for us. Esports is part of that.
Yeah.
So it's a big draw for us. Do you remember when robotics was at middle school and it was
Yeah.
kind of the big thing?
Yeah.
There's this big competition.
Oh, yeah.
Esports is the next big thing.
Right.
So you go in there and you can compete
Right.
and learn all these computer science skills while you're competing.
I'm seeing some of the universities set up labs for that, yeah.
Yes, so a lot of the community colleges in South Carolina are putting in place. We're one of the only schools that's doing the whole program right now, but we have 18 other school districts that are looking at the high tech learning lab. They're going to be part of that through the Innovation Project and Spark NC.
Right.
So it'll eventually be the way that the requirement for computer science will be delivered without having to take a class.
Right.
Kids hate to sit in a class that
Right.
like seat time, the same teacher. This is a hub where they can come in and learn from experts all over North Carolina.
Right.
We're pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
And we have sustainable agriculture. You may have seen the greenhouse down there.
Okay.
We have a living farm that is being created with cows and
Neat.
quail and all that next door, right here attached to Mount Airy High School.
Nice.
So we're pretty excited about that. And it's sustainable agriculture. It's how to take it from farm all the way to the table. And we think that's an important
Yeah.
piece to think about. And if you were driving down behind the high school, you would see the new CTE building,
Oh, yeah.
all renovated, $2 million project for the labs. So we have the labs for our Project Lead the Way, our Adobe suite, our construction, where we're making the tiny houses that are mobile, that can be moved, like
Right.
the old RVs are now tiny houses that go with you different
Right.
places. And we have cabinetry, and we have loved our woodworking for years. But
Right.
we're just excited that a building that's same age as me, 1969, old building, is going to have a new face and all these new labs and all this new technology. So we're pretty excited about the future.
Right, it's a great idea to invest in the vocational skills like that. I mean, these kids will really pick up on that, and I'm hearing all the new technologies there too. So you guys are looking ahead. That's awesome. What are some other exciting things going on?
Well, we have all kinds of student-driven projects. So what we try to do is we try to find out which population, is living in our high school right now. We've grown from 550 to over 620. So like I said, we're really growing. So we try to survey these students. What are you interested in and what do you want to do? So we had this big club day on Wednesday morning. So we have Interact Club, leadership clubs of all types, on academic competitions. So we had TSA that went and qualified for nationals with Technology Association. We have HOSA, which is really big. I was talking to Chris Lumsden just yesterday about working on some national HOSA things because our kids always qualify for nationals
Right.
in health occupation. So I think clubs are really big. Finding out what kids need, excuse me, and then making sure we cater to their needs. Because
Right.
90% of our kids go on to a 2 or 4 year college.
Right.
And you may just be going to get your certificate in a 2-year college. That's all you want to do. That's fine. We just need to get you a pathway to go into your career.
Right. Cool. Anything else that you would?
Excuse me.
It's all right. Is there anything else, Dr. Morrison, that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity to kind of shout out our kids and our teachers, especially
Right.
all of our administrators, our school board, and our community. If you think about Mount Airy kind of being in a bubble, it really is, where everybody is focused on the students being successful. I'm thankful to the Mount Airy community. We just did a fundraiser for Jordan Tucker, for instance, where we had 2 hours of hot dogs and it brought in $10,500. I mean, that's the kind of community that we have. And if we just put out there, children need an agriculture program, the next thing you know, we have a living farm.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing what Mount Airy can do when they rally together. And we have 3 great school districts in our county. We just love Mount Airy City Schools. This is where I taught as the band director. This is where I'm lucky to be the superintendent. And I'm just really thankful for that community. And I just want to shout out to the teachers who are among the best in the nation, and everybody gets an A+.
Well, Dr. Morrison, thank you for your time with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching Surrey on the Go.